What up? What up? What up? What's going on, y'all? What's up? How y'all doing? Y'all coming on here? Come on in here and say, hey, what's up? Let me know that you are here. It's been a minute, right? It's been 2 weeks. I took 2 weeks off of going live. Wanted to make sure that I was resting and listening to my body, knowing that I was exhausted and needed the break. But I am back. I am here. Y'all come on in here and say, hey, what's up? Hey, Kelly, how you doing? Thank you for joining me. Hey, Shanta. Hey, Portia. Hey, Elizabeth, thank y'all so much for joining me. Do me a favor, please. Everyone that is in here, please share, share, share. Let's get some people in here. I am trying to share myself, but I'm doing too much at once. Hey, Camille. Y'all bear with me. Let's see. Let's see if I can do this right. Hey, Cassandra. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me share one more place and then I'm done with it. I finished. Okay. So I wanted to continue the conversation that is happening over on Twitter. I don't know if y'all follow me on Twitter, right? I typically just share y'all these glasses, they frustrate me every time because they're all bent and I can't get them right. I typically just kind of share like quick things on Twitter. I'm not too involved in Twitter, but there was an interesting tweet that was shared, and I shared it. And it's been going bananas since, right? Like everybody is trying to prove that this particular sentiment of homeschooling is incorrect or wrong. One of the biggest part of the conversations that we are having is about people who are homeschooling either as a single parent or homeschooling and working their regular 9 to 5 ish right job. And so that's one of the conversations that we are continuously having on Twitter. And I am going back, I'm not necessarily going back and forth with people, but what I understand, and I will talk about me as a person who was not homeschooling at a time in a time period and who was very judgmental of homeschoolers. But one of the things that I personally had an issue with, or what I assumed, I made a clown out of myself, was I always assumed that homeschoolers weren't doing work. And that they were just kind of bull crapping around, not doing what they were supposed to do. Especially, I worked different hours or weird hours, and so I was out and about during the day, and I used to see kids all the time. And I'm not talking about like toddlers, but I'm talking about like maybe 7, 8, 9-year-old kids out, moving around, and it just seemed like they were just kind of doing whatever. There really was no rhyme or reason to what they were doing at the time. And so I was like, man, homeschooling is, man, those homeschoolers are full of it. Like, they ain't getting no work done. They say they are. They say they're doing this, but they're not. They're bullcrapping around. And honestly, I've had to eat my own words. I never thought that we would be homeschooling, but here we are. We are homeschooling. I think we started, people ask me this all the time, but I don't remember. But what I do remember is what specifically was happening in 2015 and that led us to homeschool. So what I'm going to say is I don't fully remember when we started homeschooling, but I believe that it was around 2016. And so when we started homeschooling in 2016, I had a set way of believing what and how things were going to be. And of course, if you've been homeschooling for any minute, any period of time, then you understand that how you believe things to be are not exactly how they turn out, right? Like they turn out completely different. They turn out completely different. So listen, y'all coming in here, let's have this conversation about this talking going on here in Twitter. All kind of questions. Of course, they're asking about socialization. People that they typically ask about socialization. If you followed me for a while, then you know how it is. You know what I think. You know what it is. Dr. Shiva, who is actually on here now, glad to see you, Doc, has a mindset of civilization over socialization. And in our meetings years ago, I want to say it was probably about 2017, 2018, she was talking to us about homeschooling. That was her big thing. Like, listen, I don't care about my kids being socialized. Like, I care about my kids being civilized. I care about them knowing how to speak to people, speak to adults, be courteous, be respectful, be kind, all that good stuff. And when she said it and broke it down to us, and I say us because it was a group of us, she was doing pretty much the same thing that I'm doing now, but talking to us live. And when she said it, it just made sense to me, right? I believe that my kids are social beings, especially, well, except for one. One does not really tend to like to be, out in the scene. She's really introverted. My other two are very social. And so when it comes down to it, there are other opportunities that are put in front of them for them to be social. And it's up to us as parents to make that happen. And so that may mean for us, the way that we do it is we do have a local homeschool group. They get together. They haven't gotten together in a while, but they get together in like a couple times a week. They go to a local owned restaurant. Well, it's not even a restaurant, it's like a bistro. And they go and they play games and they have some lunch. And then we go on about our business like every other Tuesday. So that's one way that we do it. We do it before COVID, pre-COVID. We were doing church. So they were doing functions and stuff like that with their local youth group. We have family members that they kick it with, right? And then my boys, if you're familiar with me as well, my boys are in competitive sports, right? So one boy plays soccer, select soccer. Which in Texas as a whole, it's insane. I can't even explain it to you. And then my other boy plays competitive homeschool basketball. And so if socialization is your concern, if that's one of the reasons why you're stopping, you're like, I can't homeschool, I'm not getting this done, this is not going to work. Cut that. Socialization is completely up to you, right? It's completely up to what you put in front of your child, what options you give them. Again, my child who's introverted, I went all over the place. We're going to try this. We're going to try that. We're going to try this. She did homeschool band. She did art. She went to a couple of the functions that were in the local group, but she didn't really cut for it or like it. We did a online game type of thing where they played a game online, all that good stuff. They go outside and play with their neighbors, our neighbors, little neighbor kids, which is funny because I say this all the time, but pre-COVID, we didn't even know that these little boys were down the street, right? They're like 3 or 4 houses down. We never really saw them, or we would see them like every other weekend. And that had a lot to do with us and our schedule, our busy schedule. But when COVID happened, everything shut down. And so we were seeing these little boys all the time. And now they come knock on the door like, hey, can your son play? Hey, can this kid play? Hey, we're outside. Can they play? Can they play? And so socialization is completely up to you as the parent, right? It's what you choose to expose them to. In our city in Texas, there was a group of homeschoolers. All we did was go on field trips. We didn't do anything else, right? We didn't go to lunches. We didn't go to dinners. We didn't do any co-op or anything like that. But it was basically somebody had a group and put a group together, right? And said, hey, I have let's just say, I'm going to say the Perot Museum. We're going to go to the Perot Museum. I've got this deal. If we all go, we can get tickets for $10. Let's go. All we did was go on field trips together. So socialization is completely up to you as the parent. You can't blame that on homeschooling. If you choose not to socialize them, then it's you. It's on you. It's on you and nobody else, right? Let's see. Doc says, good stuff. Yep. My kids have not seen other kids since COVID, almost 3 years now. But your kids are a whole nother ballgame, okay? Because Doc's kids they're like a whole nother ballgame. They are teaching kids, reading to kids. They have their own baking business. And when I say baking, I'm not talking about like they're baking out of their house. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not taking digs, so get out your feelings. But what I'm saying is these two little babies have a physical shop. They have a shop that they bake out of and ship cookies and cakes and all that good stuff all over the world. So, I mean, listen, you have a different thing going on. Yours is different, right? She says, however, they see about 30 kids in class every week and talk and interact. Right, online. So she does online schooling, which is another thing, okay? So another question that was brought up, thank you so much for putting that in front, Doc. But another thing that was brought to my attention was people talk all the time about, well, I don't get it. I'm not the smartest person. How can I homeschool my kids? It is a misconception that when we homeschool our kids that we have to know everything or that we have to have all of the answers. That is not correct. We have been blessed in this era to have the internet, to have the library full of all kind of resources. So if we don't have the answer, we have the capability to research it and find the answer. I'll use my daughter for an example right now. She's in math. I told y'all before I suck at math. That was my biggest worry. I am just terrible at math. Like math sees me coming and takes off running. Okay. I am terrible at it, especially the high level maths. And so that was one of my biggest concerns. What you do is you find people like Dr. Shiva, or you find people like Achieve Success Tutoring, that have classes that love to teach your babies, and you offer them the option like, hey, if I pay you, can you teach my baby these classes? So you do that, or you do tutoring, all different types of options as far as that's concerned. You do not have to have the answer to everything, but what you do have to do is be able to learn with them. You also have to be able to research and find whatever it is that you're needing to do, right? And so if you think that you have to have all the answers to homeschool, you don't. You don't. That's a misconception. Hey, Festus. Festus is from Houston. Come on, Texas. All right. Hey, Cindy. Cindy says, mine has not either. And I feel really bad about it. I'm overly cautious, I guess. I don't know if it's a thing of being overly cautious, Cindy, but what I would say to you is if that's something that you're worried about, then, for us, we still wear masks. Like we're not, I know that there are people out there that are anti-mask and are like, you know what, we're not going to do masks. There's no purpose of it. In our family, in our house, when we go, we wear masks. We sanitize up. As you know, though, back in September, we got COVID, right? Somehow we managed to get it. Even with masking up, even with sanitizing every 2 seconds, wiping things down, all that good stuff, we still ended up getting it. And so what I will say to you is do your best. Do what you're comfortable with. So if you are comfortable with connecting with them in that type of way, connect with them. If you're not, then you're not. That's something that you're going to have to work on. But what you need to realize also, though, in the meantime, if your child is not receiving any interaction, now I'm not talking about like if you're receiving online interaction, they're still receiving it. But if it's just you and your child, or you and your children, your husband and your children, that's all they're interacting with. Of course, that gets lonely and it gets boring for them, right? You want them to be able to interact with other people besides you and yours. Do you get what I'm saying? And so be mindful of that. If that's a decision that you make, they get tired. My kids get tired of looking me in my mouth, and I get tired of looking at them in their mouth. Both of us looking at me like, when you going somewhere? So, that's just a decision that you're going to have to make. Okay. So we addressed some issues, right? We addressed the issue of, needing to know everything. You do not need to know everything. Okay. So we addressed that issue, right? What else did we address? What was I talking about first, y'all? See, this is why I take notes. Whatever I was talking about first, we addressed that. How about that? And the third thing is income, right? Money, right? People are always concerned. They think that you can't homeschool because you work a full-time job. Okay, listen. So guess what? You can absolutely work and homeschool and be successful. Dr. Shiva and I and nine other authors, we have a whole book about it, right? African American homeschooling mompreneurs. Now, I am completely sold out of my book, but you can go on Amazon and get the paperback book. This is my copy. And look, I wrote on it, right? I don't know if you see it right there. No, telling me not to sell it. This is my last copy of the book, but you are more than welcome to go on Amazon and grab that book. But there are people out there that are doing the very thing that you are doing, and homeschooling at the same time. Part of homeschooling is realizing that it's different. It's not the same, right? You're not looking at education the exact way that it's supposed to be, right? So, you drop your kids off at 8 o'clock, they stay in school all day, you pick them up 3:30, 4 o'clock, and go on about your business. When you're homeschooling, you have the freedom to do it however, whenever you want to do it. And so that may mean for your family and your schedule that you are homeschooling in the evenings. It may mean that you're homeschooling on the weekends. It may mean that you're split homeschooling. So you're doing some in the morning and some in the evening. All of those things are options when it comes to homeschooling your children. And so don't think that just because you're working, you cannot homeschool. I tell this story all the time. I tell it these two clients in particular, and I'm going to use, I believe Cindy, remind me, Cindy, if this is not you, but I'm going to use these three examples. So I have a client that is a nurse, right? She works 3 days on and 4 days off, 12-hour shifts. Okay. And so on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, she's working. Okay. No homeschool is going on. Mondays, she comes home, she rests. Okay. And then they homeschool Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Okay. And then she starts her week all over again. during that week or that weekend while she's at home, or I'm sorry, while she's at work, the kids are at home with her husband, and they may be doing independent work or whatever the case may be. But it is possible to work a full-time job and homeschool your children. I have another client where her husband and her, they work opposite shifts. They are literally ships passing in the night, right? So one goes in early in the morning and then comes in the afternoon. The other one goes in the afternoon and comes home in the evening, or in the early in the morning. And so they are assigned subjects. So the husband will do a couple subjects that he does when he's at home, and she will do a couple subjects that she does when they're at home. Then on the weekends, they may add some extra or something to that. Okay. That's one couple. I have another. So this is not Cindy then. This may be the other Cindy. There's a couple Cindy's in the group. But there is a particular, oh, no. I think this is you. But one of the things that I've recommended is that instead of trying to push a full homeschool day into one day, if you're working a 9 to 5, a typical 9 to 5, that may mean that you're only doing one subject a day, but you're making it longer. So instead of doing 30 or 45 minutes on math for the day, maybe you're doing math for an hour and 15 minutes, but each day you're spending time on a different subject. Okay. So think about that. Homeschooling is truthfully doing it outside of the box. How can you educate your children with what you got? Like, what are your non-negotiables? What are some things that you have to do that are not going to change? I will use my family for an example. We're entrepreneurs. The early morning hours are not available. We cannot do, first of all, my kids don't wake up like that. They something else. But the early morning hours of homeschooling are not going to work for us, right? So between that 7 and maybe 10 o'clock hour, somewhere around there, we're supposed to be working on business stuff. My kids, I won't have the time to sit there and do what I need to do. So they sleep in and maybe wake up around 8 or 9 o'clock and start their independent work. Okay. So again, they don't even start their day until 8 or 9 o'clock in the day. They do their work and then they go to the various trainings, practices, wherever they need to go. An example right now, today, my son, my kids, my boy had a tournament. He played every day this weekend, several games, right? He was exhausted. So I let them sleep in. They woke up around 11:30. They didn't get any schoolwork done. My youngest son started his schoolwork today around 12:30, 1 o'clock and was finished by 4. Okay. My oldest son has not started any of it. He's eating lunch right now from coming back from training. So he's going to eat and then he's going to sit down and do his work. But I guarantee he will be done before 8 o'clock. Right. So it's what works for you, what works for your family. It's going to take some undoing to get that thought process out of your head. Okay. So let's go back to where we are. Okay. Cindy says, I know. Cindy says, I'm a living witness. You can. I'm now working 12 hours every weekend to be able to homeschool my girls. Coming home in the evenings and schooling was not cutting it. I was too exhausted. There you go. Okay. There you go. So you have options. Doc says we homeschool in the evening and work in the mornings. Right. So again, I explained to you, Doc, go ahead and put the girls' bakery in the comments, please. They have their own bakery, right? They have their own bakery. It's their bakery that they're doing. And so they get up in the morning, they bake orders and they fill orders. They get them to the post office, all that good stuff. And then they come home and do schoolwork. Sometimes she will post videos or pictures or whatever, and they're sitting in the bakery doing schoolwork while things are baking or whatever the case may be. So take it out of your mind that homeschooling has to be done a specific way. It has to be done exactly that way. Like it has to be done Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Take that out your mind because that's not how it works. To be honest with you, a typical homeschool day, and I've said this before, and it usually stirs up some mess and ruffles some feathers, but if your homeschool day is lasting more than 6 hours a day, you're doing too much. 100% you are doing too much. Because even if you go to the traditional public school system or whatever, if you take their 6 or 7 hours they're at work or at school, let's say 8 hours at school, they do breaks. They go from class to class. They have lunch. They have recess, all of the interruptions, all that good stuff. They're not even doing school for more than 6 hours a day. They're just in the building that long. Okay. So think about that. Kelly says, my daughter just attended her first Girl Scouts in-person meeting recently and loved it. Exactly. Girl Scouts is a good option. Boy Scouts, any type of thing like that where they can volunteer, anything like that would work for a homeschooler, right? Anything. I'm a nurse as well. Tough, but every so worth it. Okay, ever so worth it. I get it. There you go. Okay, so y'all can check out the bakery Ziggy and TootieCakes.com. Those are homeschooling babies that have been homeschooled from the start, that have started their own business and are homeschooling, right? So, what does homeschooling look like for you? Those are the type of questions that you need to ask when you decide to homeschool. Okay, so my non negotiables are, my boss says that my shift is from, I don't know, I'm going to make something up. My shift is from 12 to 8. Okay, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day. It's not going to change Monday through Friday. My shift is 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. every single day. That's a non-negotiable. I have to go. I have to make my money. I have to do what I need to do. Okay. And so in the meantime, before that, right, you've got that 8 to 12 hour or 8 to 11 before you have to go to work to homeschool the kids. What does that look like for you? What is your custom fit when it comes to homeschooling? It's a lot easier than people are thinking that it is what I'm trying to say. Okay. All right, y'all, if you were just joining me, my name is Sean Taylor. I am Sean, the homeschool guru, right? And I'm here answering, and we're talking about the Twitter. I posted the Twitter thing yesterday, and it's been going nuts on Twitter. If you're not following me on Twitter, you are more than welcome to. But it is an option for everyone to homeschool. And I honestly do not understand or get why people don't, especially people of color, because the school system wasn't created for us in the first place. Well, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to say that. But y'all know what I mean. Okay. All right. So again, we're talking about the Twitter conversation, but listen, this is live Q&A. You can ask whatever you want to ask when it comes to homeschooling. You can say pretty much whatever you want to say when it comes to homeschooling, and I will back you up, say whatever it is that I've got to say. Y'all do me a favor. Go to Ziggy and TootieCakes.com. I have it pinned in the comments. Go there and give them some hits on their website. Just go look around, stay there for a minute, just 30 seconds, if nothing. And give them some hits on their website. Go to their Facebook page, which is the same, Ziggy and Tootie Cakes, and like their page. Amazing family that they are doing amazing things. Okay. I think, as a matter of fact, Doc, you guys were just voted the number one of the top bakeries in Georgia, right? Correct me, please. Hey, Miranda. Miranda says, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough. We don't sit hours in our classroom. We sit and work for about 2 hours. Okay, so the question I'm going to ask you, Miranda, is how old is your baby? How old is your baby? Because that's going to make a difference, right? My 17-year-old, her schedule looks way different. The amount of work that she does is way different from my 11-year-old. So that's going to matter, okay? You're welcome, Doc. You're absolutely welcome. Okay. Miranda says her kids are 7 and 8. Okay. So my rule of thumb for 7 and 8-year-olds is that they should not be doing more than 20 minutes per subject. Okay. So 20 to 30 minutes at the very most. 30 minutes would be the top, right? So that would be you standing there, right? Teaching the lesson. We're going to learn about fractions today. La, 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 right? This is how you do it. Do. Like you're doing all that stuff, right? Okay. And then you put them on a timer for 20 to 30 minutes, depending on what you want to do. You can do increments. You can do 10 to 15 increments at a time, but no more than 30 minutes on each subject. So teach them and then give them their independent to work, 10 to 15 minutes at a time, or the whole lump sum. So think about it, if you're doing 20 to 30 minutes and you're doing all your subjects, so say you're doing math for 30 minutes, ELA for 30 minutes, history for 30 minutes, Bible for 30 minutes, if you're a believer, whatever the case may be, then that's 2 hours of schoolwork. Okay. They're 7 and 8. So my 11-year-old does probably about 30 to 40 minutes of schoolwork. My 15-year-old does 30 to 45 minutes of schoolwork. My high schooler, my senior, does 45 to 60 minutes worth of schoolwork. But because hers is more detailed, there's more to it. Also, she is earning credit hours, right? Okay. Yep. Doc says, yes, Best of Georgia Bakery. There you go. Y'all, it's amazing. Do me a favor. Go like her page. Go look at their website. I'll put it in the comments again. I'll pin it up there on the screen again. Just go in there. Y'all, you don't have to do much. It costs nothing, right? Not her bakery, not the bakery. I'm talking about, this is what I want you to do. Go give them some hits on their website. Go to their Go to their Facebook page, Instagram page, and show them some love, likes, hearts, all that good stuff. That costs you nothing, okay? Costs you nothing but a few seconds. All right. Cassandra says, I do 2 to 2.5 for my two twin girls' kindergartens. Yeah, and that's about right, Cassandra. That may be a little bit more, but it also depends on what you're doing. Okay. So, say for instance, I wrapped ELA all in one, right? I said ELA. But for us, it would be different. So, writing is separate, spelling is separate, cursive is, and this was back in the day, right? So, writing was separate, cursive was separate, reading was separate. Let's see, writing, reading, cursive, and then reading comprehension, right? And so we did each of those, right? We did each of those during the day. And so each of those may be 15 to 20 minutes a piece. So of course, that would make the day longer as far as that's concerned. I mean, Miranda, I don't want to say necessarily less is more, but what I want you to think about is, I don't know if you have gone into a kindergarten class, or if you remember that far back. I don't remember that far back. I'm just saying. But if you remember, there were centers, right? So the teacher would get up, walk around the classroom, teach a lesson about colors or adding or whatever the case may be. And they would be doing that for about 10 minutes, right? 10 to 15 minutes. And then they would go do centers or whatever project or whatever is on their desk for about 10 to 15 minutes. Those kids do not sit and do the exact same thing for more than 15 minutes at a time. And so keep that in mind, that you're asking a 5-year-old to sit for 30 and 45 minutes and do something they may not actually like to do. That's another piece of that as well. But remember, they're kids, right? Some adults can't even sit for 15 to 20 minutes doing something they don't like to do. And that's just being frank. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to say less is more, but I do want to say is be mindful that they're still kids. And be mindful that if you're teaching a lesson, then maybe you need to have a little bit more hands-on type of stuff, right? To go along with that. Okay. Cassandra says, and they get homework maybe 2-3 days a week. See, and that's how she runs her homeschool. So listen, there you go. Okay. Homeschool can do whatever you can do, whatever you want to do. My kids do not get homework. They may get a project that's due, right? So your project is due on today, this day. Okay. I don't care when you work on it or how you work on it, but on this day, I want your project turned in. So that may mean that they're spending some time later on in the evening doing homework. But as far as me assigning homework for them to do, I don't do that. That works for me and my kids. Cassandra gives them homework 2 to 3 days out of the week, and it works for her and her kids, right? It's all about finding your tailor-made fit. It is honestly about finding what you need or what's going to fit whatever it is you're trying to do. Okay. Hey, Aisha, you can't remember either. Miranda says, thank you so much. One of mine is artistic and both are dyslexic. We take a lot of time on the same subject. We move very slow, which is fine, right, Miranda? That is perfect. That is exactly what homeschooling is for, right? It's for those babies where we can sit down and we can take the time until they understand the concept, however long it takes, whenever they get it, we're going to do it, right? We have the freedom to do that, okay? So if it takes you a minute to do things because your baby has autism and because your baby is dyslexic, so what? As long as your baby gets the concept, then you're good. I tell you guys all the time, I was so frustrated, y'all, so frustrated. I was teaching one kid fractions, right? A while back, and the fractions, it wasn't clicking to him. It just wasn't clicking to him. The easiest way for it to click to him was he had to make breakfast. I've explained this. He had to make oatmeal for the family, and he had to multiply the recipe by 5 because there were 5 of us in the family. That's how he got fractions. Measuring cups. And I was trying everything but measuring cups, right? It made sense to me. Let's do the cookie method. Let's do the pizza method. Let's color. Let's do that. Let's do the pool noodle method. All of that made sense to me. And I just couldn't figure out. Fractions was cool to me. I couldn't figure out why he couldn't get it. And something as simple as go make some oatmeal and quadrupling the recipe or whatever times 5. Made the difference. Okay. That's what made it click for him. Okay. So if you have to spend time doing it, it takes forever. It's okay. You're good, mama. You're good. Okay. The point of homeschooling is to make sure that they get what they're supposed to get, right? Not necessarily get it immediately, but that they are educated. They're getting what they need. Okay. Yes, sometimes I feel so bad because it takes a while, but I'm glad this is an option because public school wasn't getting us anywhere. Exactly. And it It tends to doesn't. And again, y'all know how I am. I'm not one of those people or coaches that shoots down the public school system. But what I do feel is that there are teachers that flat out don't care. There are teachers that don't have the time. There are teachers that are overwhelmed and can't do what needs to be done for each child. And so we have to be mindful of that when we're picking homeschooling. Like, you know what, this might be a better option. That alone was one of the reasons why we started homeschooling. If you read the book, you've read the African American Homeschooling Mompreneurs, then you know we weren't happy with what was going on. When we figured out what the plan was, which was basically one-on-one time with my son, then we were like, oh yeah, no, we can do that. If that's all he needs is somebody to sit down with him until he gets it, we got it. We can do that. We can handle it. All right. So again, guys, this is live Q&A. You are more than welcome to ask any question you may need to ask pertaining to homeschooling, and I'm here to answer that for you. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, take your time. And I'm going to be honest with you, Miranda, having a child with autism and having a child that's dyslexic, having a child that has ADHD, all of that stuff can seem tiresome, and it makes you weary. It makes you doubt what you're doing. It makes you, when you've gone over the same thing 18 times, it makes you doubt what you're doing. I'm just going to say it that way. Be strong in the fact that you know that you can do this. If you've been homeschooling for a while, then you know your kids will show that they have learned whatever it is that you taught them in the weirdest times, right? The weirdest times. Just random. You'll be doing something and they'll repeat something that they heard you teach, or like I said, the fractions thing, right? We were going over fractions over and over again, and then he has to multiply by 5 to get the darn oatmeal ready for the family, and it clicked for him. Okay. I never would have guessed that. I thought when he was going to have to do it, like I was thinking, oh, here we go. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to show him another way to do fractions. So let's go do that. Child, I didn't even have to do that. He had grabbed a notebook, a spiral notebook, and a pencil, and did the multiplication by himself. He had done it by himself. And it was correct. And it was simple. Like, that was the thing about it. It wasn't all the stuff that I was trying to do. I was making it more difficult than what it was. So keep your head up. Know that there will be good days. Know that there will be great days. Know that there will be bad days. Know that there will be terrible days, but brand new mercies in the morning. Okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. I doubt myself so much and feel like a failure a lot. Yeah. And I think that's a part of us being, we take on this journey, right? We take on educating our kid. The whole thing is on us, and we don't want them to fail. And so when we take on that big task of educating them and we're scared about them failing, of course, we're going to be discouraged sometimes. But you got people like me, and you got people like the folks in my Homeschooling with Sean, the Guru group, to help you stay encouraged, to come in those moments and say, you know what, I'm scared, I'm concerned, I can't do this, help me. Or, hey, I'm just venting. And you'll have people that'll come around and rally and say, you got this, mama, it's good. Take a break and come back to it. You're good. You got this. Some things come so easy, and other things we get stuck like Chuck. Yeah. And that's normal, right? They're kids, but that's normal, right? Even as adults, some things come easy for us. We get it. It just works. And then there's some things that we're stuck on, and somebody has to jar us, shake us loose. Like, you got this. You're good. You're good. All right. All right. So listen, I need everybody in here to do me a favor. It's going to cost you nothing but a couple of seconds. If you can, heart me up in the comments. If you can share my video, if you can tag somebody in the comments, whatever the case may be, every little bit that you do, it helps. If you watch the replays, if you jump on here, even if you jump on here for 5 seconds, all of that helps and blesses me along the way. You guys know that I have asked for a huge goal at the end of the year, and I'm pushing, and we shall see what happens, right? We'll see what's going on. Okay. All right. Well, I have nothing else for you guys today. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to send me a message. Miranda, you are welcome. I will be back again on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will be changing my time in January. I'm not sure. I'm believing that maybe around the 3 o'clock hour, 3 o'clock Central, may be a little bit better, 3 or 4 o'clock Central. I'm not sure. but I will be changing it in January, so be on the lookout. Some big things are coming, such as the 12 days of Christmas is coming soon. So we'll do some different things on that. We may be doing another panel discussion coming in the next January, at the end of January, something to that effect. So set your notifications, do all of that good stuff to make sure that you are there and available for that wonderful information, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to go be a mom or whatever, right? I'm going to go make sure my kids are good. You guys have an absolutely wonderful evening, and I will see you guys again on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until later. Bye, y'all.